Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Adonai Adam Vatidrechu Ben Enosh Vachashrechu Adam le'avel dama Yamav ketzel over Babokeh yatzitz v'chalav la'erev D'molev v'yavish Tashev enosh Adaka Vatomer Shuvu v'nei Adam. We are assembled with all our hearts, souls, and our minds to remember Glenn. We gather here with many mixed emotions. We gather certainly with the emotion of his loss, knowing that he is no longer with us in this world, but with the knowledge that he is on his way in all Godspeed to his eternal resting place to be with those who have gone before him in a reunification of love. And also with the knowledge, as is tradition, certainly in Judaism, that someone never really dies. Their memories last, what we call in Judaism, Lidor Vador. And the biggest tradition of all is to name boys and girls who have just been born after those that we cherish, such as Glenn. I can certainly foresee in your homes, in years to come, no rush, that there shall be little Glens running around, and they will be taught that they are named after someone we all gather today to fill up this whole sanctuary with love, and with the knowledge that his memory will continue in our hearts through the generations, and that he will be taught about and loved for many, many years to come. And on that, certainly we all say, who among us here has not passed through our own trials and bereavements? Some of us bear fresh wounds in our own hearts and therefore feel more keenly the kinship of sorrow with those who love and will always, always love Glenn the most. Others of us whose mourning is more remote still recall when a silent hug or a kiss or a word brought comfort to our sorrowing hearts. All things pass. All that lives must die. All that we prize is but lent to us. We are travelers on the same road that leads to the same end. So as King David wrote over 3,000 years ago that God will walk us through the valley of the shadow of death, God never inspired in King David to write that God will ever leave us in that valley. One morning when you shall wake up, all that will be left are the happy and the joy-filled memories of Glenn, and those will be the memories that will last in your souls. And those are the memories that will be passed down to the next generation, and those are the memories that you will remember of Glenn whenever you have the blessing of thinking about him. So if you know the traditional words of the 23rd Psalm, we say them out loud with all of our hearts. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of his namesake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. And for those memories of joy and happiness that will be passed down, we call up with love, Zach.
Is this on? Or?
It's on.
Okay. I'm sorry to everyone. I didn't write anything down, so just bear with me. My dad meant a lot of things to a lot of people here. He was a son, a brother, and to me, he was a pretty good father. Sorry, I'm blanking. Oh dear. He was important to a lot of us, is what I'm trying to say. I had this whole thing. Okay. Oh, jeez. I'm sure. But, gosh darn it, I'm sorry. I'm going to just leave it at that. My dad's going to kill me.
If you didn't hear, Zach said his dad is going to kill him. I don't know how that's going to be. It's okay. And to the family, you certainly have already started to fill out all these forms that simply must be filled out for so many different reasons and organizations and government entities. And you will continue to fill out all these forms. And on each form will be the date of birth for Glenn, and on most forms will be followed by a little dash And after the dash will be his date of his passing. Certainly it's very important to remember his birthday each year, to celebrate his heavenly birthday. And in Judaism, of course, the date of passing is of utmost importance to light the yahrzeit, the remembrance candle. But even more important than those two bookend dates, of course, is that little dash. For that little dash is the reason all of us are here today in love. That little dash is a symbol of much, much love received, and certainly much love given. So as you continue to fill out all these forms, that certainly must be done. Look at the two dates that surround a life, but even more importantly, look at and think of and cherish that little dash, because that dash is a symbol of a life lived with love, respect, and all that's good in life. As we all say, amen. If you had the honor and the privilege of knowing Glenn, he went by many names of love to you, whether it was a family name, a nickname, a formal name. When we say the words, we will remember. Please say the name that he was known specifically to you in this life, the name that you will always call him when you have the honor of thinking of him. Say that name out loud. In the rising of the sun and at its going down, we will remember. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of this summer, we will remember. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember. So long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us, as we will always remember. We call up with love, a Petula.
I'm going to try to get through this. Glenn would always say to me, land the plane, and I'm going to try my best, but since he can't tell me now to land the plane, I'm going to just tell you all my stories. I'm extremely grateful for Glenn to have come into my life over 3 years ago. He had me at hello with his deep, sexy voice. Of course, that was on the 4th try of our first date. You know, something always happened. He had a flat tire, he lost his phone, Yom Kippur, you know. But then we saw each other every weekend thereafter. Since it was COVID, I didn't have concerts, so I was able to experience why everyone who is a non-musician always looks forward to the weekends. I always felt so special to be his number one on his arm. So many people used to look at us and tell us that we looked like a Hollywood couple. We never knew what that meant, but we looked at each other and just chuckled. He was not one to share much with anyone, but he did share me with all of his different groups of friends. We had so many fun times and lots of laughter, and now I'm really happy to have more awesome friends in my life. Hanukkah will never be the same ever again. In 2020, I decided to surprise him with a Hanukkah dinner at one of his friends' house. That in itself took lots of planning since I was making everything from scratch. But somehow Martha and I were able to pull it off. And the look on Glenn's face when I brought to him the challah on a platter was priceless. Since then, every year we had a party, and last year's is one to remember for a lifetime. I always used to say to him that he was more Italian than me and me more Jewish than him. We did a lot in a short amount of time, too many to say, but here are the highlights. We went to Puerto Rico, where Glenn decided that it would be more fun to ride and zip around on scooters everywhere than to walk and sightsee. We had the best dinner both of us have ever had in the world, and that's saying a lot considering Glenn always knew about the best restaurants to eat at. He came along with me to my San Francisco Pebble Beach trip, where I had a rock gig playing Dust in the Wind. We almost didn't make it. Flight got canceled, luggage was held hostage. We had to rent a car to get home because Glenn forgot my car key at security. His debit card got swiped, and much more. I was crying, but he was able to keep me calm and laughing so I wouldn't worry about not getting there in time for my gig. He came with me to Martha's Vineyard for a different rock gig. I wanted to ride bikes, but Glenn had much bigger and better plans. He wanted to rent a moped, but we didn't have the right kind of shoes. So we had to buy these orange Kedge-looking shoes that looked like we broke out of jail. Glenn went on and on and on with the moped guys about how these shoes, being orange, looked like they were from jail. Then we went to Vegas for his boss Phil's 60th birthday. That was an epic week. We had so much fun, except when we got into our one huge argument while going to see my friend at her Cirque du Soleil show. We almost got kicked out of the theater by not one, but two security guards since we were making such a ruckus. We were both strong-minded, but apologized and made up quickly. After one of my shows in Atlantic City, we went and had drinks with friends. This drunk guy literally falls on me from behind and then sits on my stool. Glenn looks at him and says, that's not your seat. Well, that set off a whole bunch of words to the point where the guy had to be held back from the family because he was going after Glenn to fight him. I thought I was going to get caught in the crossfire. But Caesar's security guards actually came and threw that guy out. Boy, what a night that was to remember. And one last funny story. Summer of 2022, I played at Xfinity Live with Kat and John, who you will hear shortly. We played at the stage between Citizens Bank Park and Wells Fargo Center, where Roger Waters was playing that night. Glenn had this great idea that he wanted to go eat at Prime at Live Casino. We couldn't get any reservations. They were all booked up. He was wearing old blue jeans and a baseball cap like a bodyguard, not the dress code. Me, I was in my rock stage outfit. He says, bring your violin and just go with it. I had no idea what was up his sleeve. We meet his friends, Ross and Kim, there, and Glenn goes up to the hostess and says, I have Roger Waters, violinist, with me. Do you think that you can get us in and out before the end of the show? Can you squeeze us in? She was so mesmerized by him, and of course we got in. Love that story. Glenn just got things just to happen. Now, Glenn would always say to me, you go to the doctor and they give you 6 months to live. Who would have known that would have come true? Glenn wasn't the easiest patient, let me tell you. These last 6 months have been really awful. But I'm so grateful that he trusted and wanted me to take care of him. I try to cherish that time with him, but now it feels like it went by like a blink of an eye instead of the tiring nightmare we were living. Of course, I would do it all over again. Last week, as I was driving home from my school to my house, an eagle sat in the middle of the road looking at me. I was awestruck, just like every time I looked at him. You have to understand that for my entire life, living in the Chadsford area, I have never seen a bald eagle. One of my friends told me that the Native American meaning is that the eagles are the messengers from the Creator. At that moment, I knew it was time. But then, 2 days later, on the day that Glenn passed away, the eagle showed up at my house in a tree. I knew it was a sign from God that he needed him more. I'll be watching out for my eagle to come and visit. Glenn is not suffering anymore. Now he can drink as much apple juice as he wants. It's the only thing he craved all the time, but couldn't drink it without getting sick. I cannot tell you how much I loved it when he sang to me almost daily. His voice was so in tune, and that's saying a lot, especially for a deaf guy. He was my Tom. He used to say that to me all the time. That wasn't my line. He was my Tom Jones. He knew every lyric to every song. He was my rock star, and he could sing even better than real rock stars. I know he is singing his way to heaven and teaching everyone there every lyric to every song ever written. I used to call him my jukebox. I know he will always also teach those angels all about bourbon and how to fly helicopters. Glenn, spread your wings, soar to the heavens, and fly, baby, fly. Until we meet again, you were my once in a lifetime.
If you're able to, we rise for the prayer of our departed, the Amalei Rachamim. El Morei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, Im Kedoshim B'Terim Gezerah Rakia, Mazirim et Nishmat Glenn, Ben Stanley, and Sandra, Shelach Le'olamo, Barachamim Yasireu B'Seitze, Kenafav Le'olamim, Vitzra, Vitzra, HaChaim, and Nishmato, Adonai Nachalata, V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo, V'no more. Amen. Once again, in the space provided, please say the name. Let Glenn will forever be known to you as in love, compassionate God. Eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence too. Who has entered eternity, O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bonds of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. We remain standing for the mourners' Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich machutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imeru Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitroma v'yitnaseh v'yitada v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudashah Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imeru, Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'akol Yisrael, v'imeru, Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'akol Yisrael, v'imeru, amen. You may be seated. For those who would like to give from your heart, in the name of Glenn, the family has requested the American Cancer Society. The American Cancer Society. When I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around others and give them what you need to give me. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls. You can love me most by sharing your simchas and multiplying your mitzvot. You can love me most by letting me live in your deeds and not on your mind. And when you say Kaddish for me, remember what our tradition teaches. Love doesn't die, only people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.